Hey guys, it's Shane here, and today what I wanted to do was a faction tier list for everyone's tanks. Looking at how good they are, breaking them all down to see what makes them tick, and basically giving you a good idea of what you should be bringing to your armies, or if you want to start a new army and wanted to go with a real tank theme, which ones you should be picking. Alright, so I want to break down the criteria for the ranking. Firstly, how well they can be buffed and supported. So this is through strats, through characters. The other one is your amount of choice and variety, because some armies have a very low amount of tanks and the loadouts of them is very poor, and some have an extremely large amount, very large arsenal for what they can equip the tanks with. Then we're looking at how strong and useful they are, what the tanks can do, if they have any other special abilities, or if they're just there to basically shoot and deliver firepower, which if it's strong enough, it's definitely worth looking at. But yeah, overall, everything that a tank brings to the table. Then, of course, we've got their aesthetics, how good they are, as well as the model itself, how it can be sort of customized. If you have a model, can you make other models out of it? And stuff like that. And lastly, are they worth bringing over other choices? This is more of a meta look. If you want to be more competitive, because if you're just doing it for fun, then of course bring whatever you like. But if you're looking for something that's going to actually be strong, this is if you should make that choice or not. Now, you might look at this video and say, Shane, this is very close to a Auspex Tactics type video. And to that I'd say, well, yes it is. Please, nobody tell him. But yeah, I'll try and be talking with you and breaking down along the way. Alright, so let's get into our first look. Space Marines. So, Space Marines, yeah, they're only going to get a low score for how well they can be buffed. I think each vehicle has about 3 different strats you can do. The Ignore Mortal Wounds, the Smoke Screen, if it's a Repulsor has the Grav ability. Not much you can really, sort of tricks you can pull off in game. As well as that, most of your chapter traits don't really do much for them. In addition to that, the only thing you can really buff them with, seeing as none of them are core, so no one's really going to be able to do much, is just the Tech Marine, giving it the bonus to hit and being able to repair it. But overall, you know, you'd have to give up a HQ slot for that if you had something better. Yeah, not great. They're pretty much just on their own if you bring in Space Marine tanks nowadays. As of a choice, they have a huge amount of choices. You're looking at about 4 different transport options, just dedicated transports. 4 fast attacks. You got about 9 different heavy choices, you know, with all the different loadouts. Huge range of sort of long and short range weapons. You know, you got 3 different types of land raiders. You really don't run out of choices with Space Marines. As for strength, yeah, not really that great. Most of them, yeah, they got sort of a higher armor save, 2 up, 3 up. Not that many wounds, not that many ways to protect them. They're always going to be out in the open. They leave a big footprint. And while their firepower is sort of okay, you know, you're only getting the armor penetration bonus in the first turn. And considering it's not really worth really transporting units anymore. Generally, the better is sort of foot slogging, like that Marines themselves have strong enough abilities to sort of protect themselves. So it's really not worth the price you pay for sort of protecting them just for a turn and, yeah, transporting up the field. You're better off just bringing something that can either deep strike in, move faster. Looks-wise, I think that's a high. Space Marines have the most well-recognized design of any other 40k faction. Like, it's just everyone knows 40k, that's Space Marines. Always been there, always been solid. Yeah, and the Rhino chassis, Land Raider, easy to convert into the other types. If you've got a Rhino, you know, you can also make a Predator, you can make a Hunter, you can make pretty much anything out of that chassis. It's very universal. Same with Land Raider. You know, they're pretty much the staple, and you can make very varied things with it. The only sort of downside of that is the Primaris vehicles a lot of people don't like. I don't mind some of them, but yeah. As for worth bringing, low again. You've got a lot of really expensive sort of vehicles, yeah, tend to die pretty quickly. And yeah, like I was saying, in strength, you need the bodies. You need to be able to run, hold objectives. If you've got a bunch of guys there, you can put strats, you can put transhuman on them, and just keep them there firing. Compared to bringing, say, Predator, you could bring some Hellblasters and just have them just deal more damage for pretty much the same price. So overall, yeah, we're only looking at a 4 out of 10 for Space Marines. While they, very well known and very lot of options, they're just not really that strong. Okay, now as for Chaos Space Marines, a whole different issue. So there are many ways you can buff the tanks, as well as the demon engines. So of course you got your Warp Smith, that can repair, that can give the bonus to hit, and you got the Lord Discordant, he's really good. Basically all the Legion traits for shooting are really good. But yeah, you can go a faction that has close combat ones and just bring demon engines, because they're hybrid shooting and fighting. A lot of good ways to really increase how good these guys are going to be, and a lot of strats for them as well. Choice, you're about mid-level, because you've only got a couple of transports, a couple of fast attacks. Heavies is 6, but you got your variants with the different type of land raiders, all the old school sort of Forge World models you can use as well. The main problem with the demon engines is you don't really have any choice. They're pretty much stock as they're brought. But, that being, again, they got choices of whether they can be pretty much combat or shooting. So strength is also high. Demon engines and, the Space Marine tanks, they do generally have pretty good hit points. You can protect them quite a bit easier. They've got their invuln saves, the regeneration. They're going to be getting off, the buffs and everything. Yeah. And, of course, if you do want to transport all your men, giving them up the board, you've got the options there. It's just very much, you got a lot of guys that can do a lot of stuff. Looks wise, yeah, that's high. As we were saying about the Space Marines, probably the second most known is also the Chaos Space Marines. And it's pretty much easy to kit bash. Again, you've got this thing with the Rhino model. You just got to put a bunch of spikes on it. Now it's Chaos. So it's a lot of fun you can have there. And the Demon models, you can do so much fun stuff. I've seen a lot of people sort of integrate like fantasy models into it. Yeah, there's just a lot of really creative stuff you can do with the Chaos theme. And when it comes to worth bringing, you're only in about the middle range. Whilst they are pretty strong, you've got a lot of better options. Generally, you're going to be outperformed by, say, Terminators. Havocs are generally pretty good. Obliterators are fantastic. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun using sort of the demon engines and everything. Lord Discordant is still a really good choice. There's a way to bring it, but there are sort of better options. Yeah, so overall we got 8 out of 10 for Chaos Space Marines. That's a pretty good result. They have a lot of sort of benefits over the other Space Marine faction, because whilst, yeah, they got shooting and close combat as well, you got a lot more tricks you can do. Yeah, it's a good option for Chaos Space Marines. All right, now we're looking at the Necrons. Buffed for Necrons is high. Well, it wasn't recent, it was a little while ago. They got the update where everything became core. So, yeah, you can really make use of a lot more strats for all the vehicles now. They can also be buffed by any Overlord with My Will Be Done. Pretty much all the Dynasty traits are really good and really helpful. Pretty much they work, really sync in with everything else in the army, with the Ghost Arc being able to help bring warriors back and such. So, yeah, they just really sync in well with everything. As for choice, you're looking at about mid. You've only got one sort of transport. You've got the Elite being the big walker, and you got about 4 heavy choices. Plus the Monolith, which should still be heavy, but now it's Lord of War for reasons. Not a lot of war gear options you can do with these guys. They're pretty much stuck to either, bringing their Gauze or bringing their Tesla. But we consider that's pretty much the whole army. It's about on theme for it. It's not like they can bring less than what other people can bring in their army. Strength. So you're looking about the mid-range for that. So Quantum Shielding, Living Metal, and basically high hit points, higher than average hit points for vehicles. Really helps them sort of stick around. They're very hard to remove off the battlefield. They do a lot of damage with their weapons, but the real downside to that is it's very swing, because you're looking at a lot of D6 shots and then D6 damages. So you might get a lot of shots, but not a lot of damage coming through. It's very inconsistent, which is a big shame. Aesthetics wise, yeah, it's pretty much all the standard Necron looks. Nothing really stands out. Overall is like a centerpiece type thing, and yeah, there isn't a lot you can sort of kit bash with it. It is all on theme, like it all looks like it fits in the army and meshes well. And as for worth bringing, yeah, it's still going to be mid. For as much as they can be buffed, you can really get sort of things in that can do a better job. Like, instead of bringing, like I said, the Doomsday Arc, you could bring some heavy destroyers, and they're going to move faster, be able to shoot, and get their rerolls. Sort of got a lot of more things that can sort of do the job. But they are still really good for depending what kind of army you're bringing. If you're going to be spawning a lot of warriors and sort of spamming that, then yeah, a Ghost Arc can really help with that. Monoliths are still good to sort of distraction. You put it on the field, just deep strike him in, just you have to deal with that. So it's still a lot of ways you can make it work, but yeah, there are sort of better options. All right, so that gives the Necrons a score of 6 out of 10. So yeah, it's not something you'd be filling your list out with these tanks, but you can always bring at least a few and you're going to do okay with them. All right, and the newest codex to come out is Guard. And of course, they have been really helped out on tanks. They are super good with tanks now. So in the buffing scheme, yeah, it is high. The tank orders are amazing. Yeah, the regimental traits you can do, that affects all the tanks. That works really good. You can also get a engine seer now, and that buffs. That's such a cheap option as well, the engine seer. That's really helpful. Yeah, and a lot of the strats you can use on them, they have so many. They can deal mortal wounds when they charge. They can get the overlapping fields of fire to get real reliable damage coming through. As well as that, you can still cast the Night Shroud or the Barrier to just give them that extra protection. Yeah, they're pretty much there to stand out. As for choice, yeah, high again. You got about 4 different transport choices. A couple of fast with 3 different types of Hellhound. They're just Hellhounds now. You don't really have the Devil Dog anymore. And yeah, you got about 6 different types of heavies. You got all the different loadouts with the Lehman Russ tank. That's always great. You got 4 different kinds of Malkador tanks. If you're looking at Forge World, you got about 17 different Lord of War options for all your Baneblade variants. So yeah, there's the most amount of choices, I think, even more than Space Marines you can do for the Guard. So when it comes to strength for the Guard, yeah, this is the backbone of the army. Pretty much most of the damage you're going to do with longer range is going to come down to the tanks. As well as their defensive abilities. The new one, the Rogal Dawn, as far as I'm aware, that's one of the only toughness 9 readily available tanks in the game. Yeah, pretty much there are so many shots, especially the Lehman Russes now, since they made it, more reliable to hit. So now you're hitting on 3s with the turret, and they're just, getting a lot more shots. So just a huge amount of firepower coming out of these guys. Number of shots. The damage is all really reliable as well. A lot of the weapons now, like D6, it's D3 plus 3. So that's really a huge advantage they get. Looks-wise, yeah, I love the look of the Imperial Guard. They're just, it's that old school sort of tank look. You could look at any of their models and say, yep, that's a tank. There's no misjudging it for anything else. You say, yep, that's definitely a tank. They're just solid. They're just doing their job. Yeah, there's just a lot of variety you can do with it. Like I said, with all the different styles of Lehman Russ, you can easily bash them into something else. The Chimera, the Russ, and the Torx chassis are all pretty interchangeable. You can do a lot of stuff with them. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff you can do looks-wise. And for worth bringing, yes, this is what you should be bringing. It's the most reliable shooting in the army, the strongest firepower in the army. It's all really well priced. And yeah, if you weren't going sort of tank heavy, it would be sort of a lot trickier to sort of work with. Because even if you're going like Scions, like you still need a lot of transports for them. You can't just deep strike them all in. So they need those as well. I guess if you're going Ogryn, spam, but even then you can't fill just an army with Ogrins. You need something backing them up. This is definitely what you should always be bringing if you're playing Guard. So overall, 10 out of 10. Basically, if you wanted a heavy tank army, then Guard. That's literally your best option. Not really shocked there, not really surprised. We sort of knew that was coming. But yeah, just when you break it all down, it's solidified that, yes, that's what you should be doing. All right, and another real fun one is Orks. They really get buffed because, of course, you got your speed wire abilities, which works with the vehicles. You can knock that off to give that boost. Ramshackle, that keeps them alive. You got all your speed freak abilities. Pretty much all the clan cultures work really well with vehicles as well. And of course, you got your custom job upgrades. You got your mech. He's going to buff some things and repair. It's really a good option for Orks. They got a lot of stuff they can do to make their vehicles really good. As for choice, yeah, real good choice as well. They only have the one sort of main dedicated transport, the truck, but that's a good vehicle. You got all your different fast attacks, all the different the car buggies, they're great. You got about 7 different heavy choices. The Lord of War, the kill tank, which is really good. I think more people need to bring him. And yeah, but you got a lot of different upgrades, a lot of fun things you can do, just loading on the guns to the side, and it's just, yeah, a lot of options there. Strength, it's only about the middle range, though, for the tanks. While it's a lot harder to kill sort of the bigger ones, they got a lot of sort of hit points, or, yeah, they're just really hard to kill a lot of the time. They're good in the charge, but they're not great at staying in combat. Yeah, once they get bogged down. And of course, the main problem is, yeah, a lot of the times with the bigger tanks, you're not getting a lot of reliable shots. It's mostly hitting on 5s and such. And if you're fighting an army that's got ability to sort of stack negative modifiers, well, you only get 1 negative, but yeah, it's going to be really tricky to sort of shoot them off the board. So, yeah, that's one real big drawback for them. Looks-wise, everyone loves how Orks look. That is a high. The most fun army, because you can pretty much take any tank from any other faction, just put a bunch of Orks on it. It's now looted, counts as this tank. Yeah, you can be as creative. There's literally no limits when it comes to Ork vehicles. But even the ones you've got, a lot of good design has gone into it. All the new ones. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on with them. As for worth bringing, yeah, no, it's good. It's not the sort of the best thing you can do. It's great to get that early advantage with a lot of fast stuff coming in. They did sort of put a stop to that, putting a lot of limits on sort of the speedier vehicles and the sort of the shooting, how that works for out of line of sight now. But yeah, basically you can't really bring just the tanks. You're not going to have a great time. But yeah, pretty much most Ork armies now, they at least have a few in there to either, yeah, being transports or just 1 or 2 doing some big damage. Yeah, overall, you're looking at 8 out of 10 for Orks. Definitely, they love their vehicles. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with it. Yeah, it's a real good option if you want to get into Orks and you want to go some larger stuff, but don't really like the big mech aspect of it. Then yeah, just going fast, going strong, that's always a great option for Orks. All right, so now we're looking at Sisters of Battle. So for buffed, it's low. You've got the Shield of Faith, so everything's got the 6-up invuln. You can use sort of Act of Faith for it. That's sort of okay. The Sacred Rites, there's only a couple of good ones you can sort of use to affect the army. The only real good choice for Order is Ardent Shroud. Yeah, all the other ones are sort of close combating, and these just will not work like that for that. Yeah, there's nothing really to repair. Nothing's core, so... Yeah, overall, the tanks aren't the strongest that can be buffed. So choice-wise, you're looking at low again. They only have 2 transports, the Rhino and, of course, the Emolulator, and your 2 heavy choices, the Exorcist and the Castigator. Yeah, there's not much. And yeah, weapons loadouts is okay for the Emulator. You've got, your Flamer, your Melter, your Heavy Bolter, just the 3. The Castigator's got 2 different loadouts. Exorcist's got 2 different loadouts, but, they're both sort of the same, and there's definitely one that's always better than the other that you should just basically always pick, so not a lot of variety there. Strength-wise, yeah, it's sort of mid. I mean, you can multi-melter spam for a lot of this, and that's going to do a lot of damage. The Exorcist is the only real sort of reliable way to deal long-range heavy damage. And of course, they all have a lot of heavy bolter shots in them. Overall, it's okay. It's okay. Depending what sort of army you're bringing. Looks-wise, the new Sisters models, some of the best looking that's in the game. Like, the detail that's put on all of these models is amazing. Like, they put a lot of work into it. Yeah, it really solidifies their theme. So, you know, just the basic Rhino looks so much different to everyone else's Rhino. It's really impressive with how good they look. So worth bringing, mostly for the transports. You know, if you're going to Rhino rush up, you've got, or use the Emolulators to quickly get in and get some heavy shots in with the Melters. But a lot of the armies that sort of you're trying to get a lot of guys into combat quick, you know, they're basically going to trade off the transport for just more bodies, which you can sort of do and just sort of hide them around. The other option, of course, is, you can just deep strike in a bunch of your Seraphim and stuff. Yeah, like I said, aside from the Exorcist, there's not much reason to bring many else of them. So yeah, overall, you're looking at about a 4 out of 10. So when you're using the Rhinos and stuff, the transports, that's good. They're about one of the only armies that can still sort of Rhino rush. But there's just a lot of better options there than sort of using tanks for them, which is a bit of a shame because, how good they look. Alright, so now we're looking at Eldar. So buffed, it's about the middle. The craft wheel buffs are good. They work. You know, you can use the Strands of Fate power. That can, really make a difference in some parts. I guess the main problem is that nothing's core, so it can't use the HQ abilities, and it can't be affected by psychic powers. You cannot buff these guys with that. And there's no real way to repair them either. So, sort of just mid-range for that. Choice, we're looking at mid again. You know, you've got your transport, your Wave Serpent, you got a fast attack option, you got about 5 different sort of heavy tanks, a couple of Lord of Wars, which are really good. You can do a lot of good vehicle upgrades, like the Vector engines and the Matrixes. It's a lot of different weapon loadouts you can do, but a lot of them are very the same. Basically, the heavy tanks will have one sort of special weapon and the rest will sort of look about the same. Like, for the longest time, I couldn't really tell the difference between a Wave Serpent and a Falcon. Like, it just, I didn't know the difference. So, you get a lot of choice. But just a lot of it's not really that great. Strength, these are some of the strongest tanks in the game. They're not the strongest, but they can move so fast and such long range that it doesn't matter. There's some really strong abilities, some good strats. You know, even the most basic guy, the Wave Serpent, you know, it can deal so much damage. It can definitely be a game changer. As for looks, that's what I was saying. That's sort of good thing about having a universal chassis, but for Eldar, it's really not, because it's not really a newer sort of model. It hasn't been updated in a long time. It all sort of looks the same. So unless you're a really good painter and you can do a lot of stuff to make it stand out, because there are a lot of good jobs like that, pretty much all the different options you've got, they all look really the same, which is a real shame. And as for worth bringing, that's a low. You get a lot of good Eldar abilities from sort of close combat and close range shooting. Think of like Harlequins and the Inari. They have, they're basically close combat guys. So the tanks are still really strong, but there's going to be a better option. And when you got your heavy weapon choice, is it worth bringing in the tanks, or should I bring in some Dark Reapers that are going to come in and just do a lot of damage? So aside from, sort of transporting, and you're really better off bringing the smaller transports, sort of the jet bike ones. It's not a lot of good reasons to bring the heavier tanks. So for that, we're looking at 4 out of 10 for Eldar again. Like I was saying, for a lot of different choice, a lot of different weapon options, they really just don't mesh well with the army. It's really surprising. But that's just how they are. Alright, so now for Dark Eldar. So buffed is really high, because you get all your Cabal abilities. That will affect the tanks, even though they're not core. Power of Pain still works on them, Blade Artist on some. There's a lot of strats, like, they're good at charging in, and pulling off the strat to do mortal wounds with the shock prow. Really meshes in well with the rest of the army. Choice, that's pretty low. You've only got one transport, You got three heavy sort of choices, two of them being Forge World. And there's only the two different sort of weapon loadouts, the Disintegrator Cannon or the Dark Lance. That's it. There's just no choice there at all. As for strength, yeah, these guys are amazing though. They are weak. They are very easy to sort of kill then. But, you know, the invuln save is really what helps them there. And they're so fast, you know, if you got longer range, you're always going to be fine. And yeah, being able to have them pretty much always transport as well. And they're so cheap and they can deal so much damage with the Dark Lances. Yeah, it's one of the stronger options for Dark Eldar. As for looks, there's not a lot of customization you can do. Like, they're good models and stuff. They have a very distinct design. No other army looks like these guys. They stand out nicely. But yeah, not a lot of customization you can sort of do with it. Again, it's going to come down to how well you can paint it versus how well you can model it. And worth bringing, yeah, that's high. Basically being your raiding force. You just want to run in, get your guys out, lock down an objective, and just keep on moving. I mean, they're space pirates. They need their ships. Yeah, unless you're going actual span of the Talos engines and stuff. But even still, you're going to need transports. That's what it all comes down to. So Dark Eldar as a whole, 7 out of 10. Yeah, definitely an army that really benefits from having a lot of tanks. And by tanks, I mean ships, in this case. All right, so now we're looking at Tau. Buffed-wise, not great. The set bonus is all right. The fact that, you know, nothing's core doesn't help. Some of the strats are okay. They come with some marker lights on them as well, so that sort of helps out the other army. But yeah, the main thing that gets buffed in this army, of course, is battle suits. They always take precedent over tanks for Tau. As for choice, very low. You've only got the one transport, the one fast, and a couple heavy weapon choices. You don't even get the Forge World ones anymore. You know, you got different loadouts, pretty much just the drone choices. The only real difference is with the Hammerhead, which, yeah, you've got your different loadouts for that. Not really a lot of options there. As for strength, yeah, really high. They do great damage. Yeah, you can decimate things with a railgun. And even the ion cannon, that can do a lot of sort of anti-infantry damage. All with amazing range. And they're good to protect because you got the drones there. You can sacrifice to protect them. Yeah, they'll definitely work good as long as you can, you know, have the line of sight. But yeah, when they can do damage, they do it well. As for looks, yeah, it's all comes off the same chassis, which is kind of good because you can just swap out. If you got the Devilfish, yeah, you can just put the railgun on. Whoop, now it's a Hammerhead. So yeah, and I mean the different weapons make it sort of look distinct, like you know the difference between them, but nothing really stands out. Like it's an okay design, but yeah, it's just a bit dull. As for worth bringing, yeah, no, these have no real worth compared to what you can get. Battle suits, you know, they're always more survivable. They'll always do a lot more shots, a lot more you can do with them. They're a lot more mobile. And that's, yeah, really where the army's focused on. So yeah, for Tau, one of the lowest scores, 3 out of 10. There's just very few reasons you'd bring a lot of tanks for Tau. There's just, yeah, overall better options you can do for them. All right, so now we're back looking at AdMech. Yeah, buffed is pretty good. Everything doesn't have core, but that's not really that much of a downside because the Marshal can still buff them because they buff as Skitaring, and you can still always repair them. The Engine Seer can also buff as well. Pretty much all the Forge Worlds have really good their buffs. That helps a lot. The Canticles still work. They all have like good stratagem choices. Yeah, they really matter for the AdMech. As for the choices, yeah, you're only looking at mid. You've got a couple of transports, couple of heavies. I know the army itself doesn't have a lot of huge options. There's only a couple of troops choices, couple of heavies, but yeah, it's not a lot. And loadouts, you don't have a lot of choice for that. It's like 1 or 2 different options for each tank, except for the Doom Crawler has like 3, I think. So yeah, it's all right, but it's not everything. As for strength, yeah, it's pretty high. Doom Crawlers, they're one of the sort of tankier units, and they're really well priced for what they can do. They'll do the most anti-armor damage, pretty much the longest range sort of guys shooting, as well as the Scorpius. That can deal a lot of damage. If you take the termite drills, you've got something that can deep strike in and bring everything in and then charge in. They do so much damage in close combat. So yeah, you can do a lot of good stuff with the with tanks for AdMech. As for look, yeah, they're definitely a fun army. Like Doomcrawler is the most interesting sort of AdMech unit we've seen. Like they're just fun. You got your tanks with the legs. That's just good. And yeah, the Scorpion kit, that uses the same chassis. That's good. You can sort of build either out of them. So yeah, they're pretty useful. There's a lot of fun stuff you can build with them, and a lot of stuff you can kit bash. I've seen a lot of people put extra legs, put extra sort of hover things on them. So yeah, a lot of good stuff you can do. And as for worth bringing, yeah, it's about a mid. Like I said, Dune Crawlers, they're always going to be good in whatever you take. I've seen most armies usually take at least a couple of them. I don't really think I see a lot of the other choices. A lot of the times, the Castellan robot spam, that will sort of fill in the heavy selection, so that'll sort of be the staple point. But yeah, for transporting troops, it's good to have the options they have, because you can go a lot of Skitarii, sort of fast movement out. Yeah, it's definitely good to have some. But yeah, it's not everything. So overall, looking at 8 out of 10 for AdMech as well. Of course, being the mechanics of the Imperium, they're going to really have a good time. A lot of options for tanks for them. All right, so Custodes now, and to a lesser degree, Sisters of Silence, Talons of the Emperor. When you're looking at buffed stat, yeah, that's a low. Basically, the shield host buffs are okay-ish. Nothing's cool. Pretty much, yeah, there isn't really good strats for them as well. They're really just sort of forgotten when it comes to the Custodes. They're just left to the fend for themselves. As for choices, yeah, pretty low as well. There's a couple of transports. You got your Rhino, and you've got the Grav Carrier, which is Forge Weld. You got your fast attack and your heavy. Because if you're not looking at Forge Weld, there's halves the lift entirely. And I mean, the tanks, you can't even swap out their weapons. So yeah, not a lot of option there. As for strength, yeah, the flare shielding's good. They're already pretty tanky on a whole. And then you've got the invuln save. The fact that their base is hitting on 2s, and they're very fast. They're real heavy hitters. But yeah, they're not really gonna do as lot compared to like the infantry and stuff, because the strength of the army really comes a lot into close combat, which they're just not going to be doing. They're just going to be moving fast and shooting, which is good, but you definitely need more. Looks wise, if you're not looking at the Forge World, it's just a Land Raider and it's a Rhino. It's already from other sort of well-known kits. The Forge World, however, has really interesting style, like it's the old heresy sort of look to it, which is cool. That always stands out. That's always something different. So yeah, you're sort of in that mid-range there. As for worth bringing, that's a low, because having fast tanks that can shoot very far and hit hard's great, but instead you could be bringing like all the jet bikes, which can do both really well. And just once they're there, they're holding onto an objective, holding ground. As for the bigger stuff, yeah, the Dreadnoughts are really the better choice. They can do more damage. They can defend themselves better. You can buff them better. Yeah, there's just no real reason anymore to sort of bring the tanks. So overall, Custodes is only a 2 out of 10. It's, again, being Forge World, I guess it's something that Games Workshop just overlooked completely. They could sort of be doing something with the tanks, so they just didn't even factor it into a lot of the rule set. All right, so now we're looking at Genestealers. So buffed, yeah, high. The Cult Creed works really good for pretty much all vehicles. The main abilities, the ambush, the crossfire, they work. There's no core with them, but that's fine because they got a good amount of strats that can work. The Jackal Alphas, yeah, that actually can buff them. And you can use psychic powers on them as well, which is good. So overall, yeah, they mesh really well with the army. Choice is actually mid, even though there's only 3. The transport, the fast, and the heavy choice. That being said, there's low choice for the army as a whole. They don't have a lot of models at the moment. And yeah, as for the heavy choice, the Rock Grinder is the only heavy choice. So pretty much you needed to fill that slot. That's your only option. But yeah, as for that, there isn't a lot of choice for sort of weapons. Yeah, that's sort of the downside to that. Yeah, overall, not bad. As for strength, what really hurts them is, of course, their ballistical 4, and you can't really do much to get that higher. So they're always going to be not hitting that great. They do have some really good weapons on them, like the the mining laser, that's really good. Having rugged design, that's like a ramshackle, that really helps them as well. They are sort of low at toughness though, but they are cheap, so they sort of have weaknesses which they have strengths to sort of combat that. Yeah, when it comes down to it, sort of just one of them isn't gonna be a game changer. You got to sort of keep a lot of them. Looks wise, yeah, I think it's great. They really have a distinct look. It really shows that side of 40k where it's not something necessarily that's always in war. This is something that has been adapted. So it gives that sort of mirror side to the Imperium where you see, what's going on in the background and they're pulling it forward. The only real way to get that aesthetic again is, Necromunda style, which, a lot of their vehicles you can kit bash to be Genestealers. I've seen that done. That looks really good. Of course, the grinder and the truck is pretty much the same kit, so that's handy. Yeah, just that industrial 40k look is really cool. As for worth bringing, it really depends the play style. It's always good to have sort of some fast, sort of hard-hitting stuff. Generally, you're going to be deep striking a lot of stuff in, but even for then, you need some long-range shooting. You're going to need these tanks. Like I said, really depends with what your play style is, but it isn't really going to hurt too much if you bring a couple in. So overall looking at a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it's not a lot of choices with Genestealers, so it's handy having them. As for Death Guard, this just recently sort of went down a bit. It used to be a lot higher, sort of the power, but we're only looking at mid buffed. It's all non-core. The plate company buffs won't really affect them, and a lot of the close combating stuff won't. But the base abilities work on the vehicles to make them stronger, and there are a fair few strats you can sort of work to it. Being demon engines, pretty much all of it, they're gonna be a bit more defensible. And you got some psychic abilities you can put on them as well, which is helpful. As for choice, you got a real high assortment there. You got a couple of transports, fast attack ones, which have the different loadouts. A lot of the heavy choices and pretty much all the Forge World sort of range you can bring for Death Guard. So you got a lot you can sort of draw on. The old pretty much Chaos Marine stuff as well as their own specific ones. And a lot of loadouts can be for sort of close range shooting or long range shooting or even close combat. So a lot of range you've got with the choice. As for strength, these guys are good. They have real good range. Their anti-armor is really powerful. Built-in rerolls to wound. Really hard to kill because they, of course, have their armor content, disgusting resilience. When you got someone with a lot of wounds and a lot of save, they're just going to stay there and, really withstand. So, good option for strength. Looks-wise, it all fits perfect to the Nurgle theme. The way they've designed these to still have that Space Marine look, but look so much different to them all. It's really perfect. And there's a lot of fun customization you can do to make them even look more sort of Nurgle corrupted. A lot of fun you can do with these guys. But as for worth bringing, no, they're not really that worth bringing for as strong as they are. There's so many other things you can do in the army that's better. Because you got Plague Marines that can get, their free upgrades. The Terminators are just going to, for as strong and withstanding as the vehicles are, the Terminators are going to be even more so. That's generally what you see. Plus, if you want to bring something big, you got to leave room for Mortarion. So, overall, there's just a lot better choices with Death Guard at the moment. So with that, it's 7 out of 10 for Death Guard. It's their number and everything. I didn't even plan that. That's really fun. So definitely something you should be looking at because all the vehicles are great, but if you're looking to be really competitive, not really something you should be taking. And last, of course, we got the newest faction, Leagues of Votann. So buff for them, pretty high. Pretty much all the league abilities is going to be affected by them, so that's good. Like the longer range, or being able to shoot things that they have more judgment tokens. And judgment tokens as a whole, you get a lot of strats that work for them. They don't get the sort of coal rerolls, but you can give them the bonus to hit from the Iron Master. So there's ways, there's a lot of ways you can make him better. As for choice, again, it's one of those situations where it's mid because even though there's only 2 options, the fast and the heavy, there's not much options for anything else. Both have fair different sort of loadout choice, a lot of options you can sort of distinctly change them around. They don't have a great transporting option though, so we'll be looking out for a better one soon. As for strength, it's still sort of mid. A lot of the higher damage stuff, you know, it's low shots though. So for the heavy Magna Rail rifle, yeah, it's one hit. It'll do a lot of damage, but if it doesn't hit, then that's $300 down the drain. Sorry, 300 points down the drain. And yeah, while they're still pretty good, you know, you're not able to reroll the wounds against them, they're still pretty high targets, the Land Fortress. So as strong as it is, you get some anti-armor hits on it, and it can't withstand that much. But yeah, the Sagittar has some good speed on it, so again, it's good, but it's not going to change the game, and it's not going to be indestructible. Looks-wise, it's still going to be mid. There's very divided opinion of how well it fits to the setting. You know, I think it's pretty good. There's a lot of potential kit bash you can do, because it's sort of that rugged sort of design as well. So you could, like I was saying in my review for it, you could put tracks on it. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do, but it does fit the army, but whether that army fits the faction, that's for people to decide. And for worth bringing, yeah, it's a mid as well. Like, it's a big investment. These are expensive, the tanks. And they're sort of not going to hold his ground, and you can't sort of keep them protected as you can with some of the other units. So, yeah, bring out a lot of bodies. And yeah, you can sort of bring a shorter range firepower if you bring the units. So, very situational how they'll be effective in battle going, depending what you're going up against. Yeah, whether the tanks will come through and save the day is very much iffy in a lot of cases. So yeah, for that, Votann, you're looking at a 6 out of 10. They are strong, but you definitely got to bring something else to support it. They're not going to just survive on their own and be able to take an entire army on their own. Maybe later on, but not right now. All right, so with that, we come to an end. So if we look at the ranking, in the lowest spot, you've got the Custodes, then following by Tau, Marines, Sisters of Battle, your Eldar, Necrons, Votann, Dark Eldar, Genestealers, Death Guard, Orks, Admech, Chaos Marines, and then Guard. If you were looking at who would be sort of the best to bring for, bring a large tank army, hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you should be bringing. And sort of looking at the meta a bit, what you can sort of see sort of going on around their rule set. But that's it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll try and have some more videos out for you soon. Bye.